Good afternoon. Okay, I'm recording this for Heidi. You're welcome. Hello, Heidi.
Sorry, you're not here.
Recording. Okay. I did in history class.
When there's lots of circles,
If she's missing, it means she's great.
We did 3/5 compromise yesterday.
yes.
Okay, so there's a bundle of other compromises we got to figure out. Okay, we got the great compromise, we got the legislature figured out. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, and we got the 3/5 compromise as far as population goes for counting slaves. And now we got, what are we going to do with this executive? Okay, so some of the delegates wanted the people to elect the president. And by the way, they didn't have that name picked out yet, what they were going to call the president. Just using president, but they didn't know what they were going to call him. Okay,
What were some of the options?
well, King,
Chancellor.
George, Washington,
That.
okay, Prime Minister, these sorts of things, yes. Premier, Chancellor, these are other names that are used. Emperor.
You should have gone with that one.
Okay, others wanted Congress to elect the president. Did we settle on either of these?
Yes.
No, we did not.
People love it.
The people elect
Elector.
electors that elect the president. This is called, of course, the Electoral College. Okay, that was the compromise. Okay, let's talk about this. Why did some people not want the people to elect the president?
Democracy.
Because people are,
Emotional. And biased.
Easily swayed.
And
Racist.
they don't pay attention.
At this time.
Ignorant.
All of the above?
okay,
Everyone.
you said it, I didn't. Okay, and then Congress, why would some people not want Congress to elect?
Corruption.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Tribalism,
They don't have the same perspective.
Tyranny.
They get to stay.
Yeah, they don't.
yeah, various reasons. So they came up with this. Now, we're the only country in the world that uses this. And it's an interesting idea. And that is to create a number of electors based on the number of members of Congress there are in a state. Okay? So, have I been over to this map recently? Yesterday, maybe? Yeah. So, we know that if you subtract 2 from any of these numbers, that's how many House seats the state has. And then if you add 2, that's your 2 senators. So that's your total number of electors. Now, the smallest states are guaranteed at least 1 member of the House and guaranteed 2 senators. Okay, so your 3s up here don't have enough population to have 2 House seats. Now, Montana will. They're going to go to 4. Okay, so they'll have 2 House seats and 2 senators. That makes sense. Okay, and that is how we're going to choose the president. Now, in the original Congress, how many senators were there?
26.
26, okay? 13 states times 2 equals 26. The first House had 65. Okay? So that would be the total number of electors nationally. Would be 91. Okay? And it needs to be an odd number. You understand?
That way it can't be a tie. 50-50.
Yeah, because then you could get a tie in the Electoral College, and you still can, actually. It doesn't have to be an even number or an odd number. Okay. So today, how many senators are there?
100.
50 states, 100 senators. Okay. We're now up to 435 members of the House. Okay. Now, one of the amendments we're going to talk about, the 23rd to be specific, gave this group of people that lived within the United States, that didn't live in a state, the right to vote for president and vice president. Washington, D.C. So D.C., if it were a state, small population, they would get one member of the House and 2 senators. So the 23rd Amendment gives Washington, D.C. 3 electoral college votes. That puts us at an even number. Okay, so you've got 538 total electors today. You with me?
Yep.
All right, let's divide that in half. You get 269. In order to win the presidency, you need to win a majority of the electors. Plus 1, 270 is the magic number. Now, if you put those numbers in a bunch of different ways, could you get to 269 to 269?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Or if you had a strong third-party candidate that was able to win some of these electors. So say you had one win 269, one win 200. What do we need left? 69 more? This one wins 69. Yeah. Okay.
Wait.
Nobody got to 270. You have 3 candidates: Republican, Democrat, Independent.
Well, they still want the majority of it.
They don't win a majority. That's a plurality, not a majority. Majority is 270. So how do you determine who the president is? The House of Representatives. Now, it's tricky. I'm going off in uncharted territory. We'll talk about this later. But so the House, there's 435 members, right? There's 50 states. So each state House members are going to vote to determine which candidate their state's going to vote for. So there's going to be 50 votes here. So Kansas, okay, this is the 4th district. Okay, this is the big one. We live in the 4th, 3-2. Okay, we're divided up into 4 districts. We have 4 House seats. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. 3 of these, Republican, 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 Democrat. Which party is Kansas going to vote for?
Republican.
They got 1. Oklahoma, Republican has 2. California, they have 53 House seats. Most of them are what? California for the Democrat. And the first one to 26 votes wins.
What if it ends up another time?
Okay, there's a tie, 25 states to 25 states.
It's just because of the House. It has a majority.
This is what happens. The outgoing vice president will remain president until they break that tie. The vice president will be chosen by the outgoing VP.
He just picks,
What if he what?
could he pick the form?
Well, no, the House picks it.
Yeah, he can, well, yeah, he can pick whoever he wants. There's no qualifications for vice president.
Really?
0.
The outgoing vice president stays in charge?
Yes, becomes president until they break the tie.
So it's saying at the next election that if it went into a tie down to the House, then Kamala Harris would then be president in charge for.
Yeah, like in 2024, if there's an electoral college tie or nobody wins the majority,
Right.
Kamala Harris will become president until they break the tie. Yeah.
Kamala.
Yeah. DC gets 3.
But we don't count those in the Senate.
No, they're not, those electors, they're not senators. What is an elector? It's just a human being. Okay, so the Republican Party in Kansas, okay, we have 6. The Republican Party is going to choose 6 people. The Democrats are going to choose 6 people. The Libertarians are going to choose 6 people. These are people like you and I. Okay, so, the Independents, they pick 6 people.
Oh, and whoever party wins gets to tell their
Yeah.
voters to.
And if you win the most votes in Kansas, Your party, your 6 people go to DC and cast the vote for president and vice president. So let me give you an example. You ever watch that show, The Antiques Roadshow?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. It's one of my favorites, right? And Lily watches it with me sometimes. Listen, I saw a guy bring in a campaign poster from 1860. Who ran for president in 1860? Abraham Lincoln. It did not have his name on it. It just listed the electors for the Republican Party. Because that's who you're voting for. Now, who could that be? So, like, in the state of Kansas, the Democrats could choose, like, the former governor of Kansas, Kathleen Sebelius, to be one of their electors. Or somebody that helped run the Central County Democratic Party for the last 20 years. They could choose them to be an elector. You choose somebody that's loyal to your party to be an elector.
Wait, if those people are.
Could they vote opposite? So say you send the 6 Republicans to DC,
Yeah.
could they vote for the other candidate? Yes. It's happened more than 10 times in American history. Has it ever affected the outcome of an election? No.
I heard they just do it for like to make a statement.
Sometimes they do. So in 2016, there was actually an effort by a bunch of Hollywood stars to convince Republican electors that were going to DC to vote, not to vote for Donald Trump. Not necessarily to vote for Hillary, but anybody but Donald Trump. Okay? It didn't work. They made like videos and stuff, like real serious videos, like sake of our democracy. The state of our democracy is in jeopardy if you vote for Donald Trump. And we're not telling you to vote for Hillary, but and there was like 15 like stars, like faces you would recognize that did this. It's funny. You look
I remember.
Wait,
I
so
remember
can like
some-
3 from each party go?
No.
No, so like
So-
if you voted for Donald Trump.
Kansas, say Trump wins 60% of the vote here. Hillary won 40%. Okay. All 6 go to the Republicans. Except
Nebraska.
in 2 states.
Yeah, that's right.
Everyone is.
Now, Nebraska, which likes to be different, they have a unicameral legislature, right? They have 5 electoral college votes. They draw 5 districts just for the presidential election. And those 5 districts will vote for 1 elector. Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever, okay? In this election, this was Obama versus Romney, okay? Romney won 4 of the 5 districts. Obama won the one around the college campus in Lincoln, right? Is that where the college is? Nebraska. Maine does the same thing. They draw 4 districts. And in this case, Obama won all 4. In 2016, Trump won 1 of the 4 here. And in 2020, Trump won 1 of the 4 here. Okay. And same thing happened in Nebraska in 2016. Hillary won 1, but Trump won the other 4. Biden won 1, and who did Biden run against? Trump. Yeah. Right? Okay. So that's a short explanation of the Electoral College. Okay. Now, when we talk about the executive branch, we'll go over that again, and we'll talk about why people want to do away with it and what some of the implications of that would be and so forth. Okay, or different ideas to use. Okay. All right. So other things they got to figure out. They create a way to amend the Constitution. Okay, can we alter it, amend it, without starting over from scratch? Okay, and they will do that. They decide the first capital is going to be where?
New York.
New York. Okay, and one of the other things they put in here, guys, is they give the Senate some special powers. The Senate has the power to advise and consent to the president. So when the president gets to appoint federal judges, who has to approve them? The Senate. When the president wants to make a treaty with other nations, who has to approve that? 2/3 of the Senate to approve a treaty. Okay? So that is something that they put in there as well. Okay? All right. Now, we've got a constitution. And this is what Patrick Henry says about it. Most of the delegates will sign it on September 17, 1787. Henceforth becomes known as Constitution Day. September 17th. Okay? Constitution Day. It's one of the days, if you fly an American flag at your house, you fly the American flag, you're supposed to, on Constitution Day. You know what other day you're supposed to fly the flag? Yeah, July 4th. Okay.
What was that face
New
for?
Year's Day,
I say it like that.
January 1st. Inauguration Day, January 20th. Lincoln's birthday, February 12th. Washington's birthday, the third Monday in February.
They don't know.
It changes every year.
It's President's Day. Easter Sunday, variable. That's what day that falls on. Mother's Day, the second Sunday in May, but not Father's Day. Armed Forces Day, the third Saturday in May. Memorial Day, which is the last Monday in May. Flag Day, anybody? June 14th. Independence Day, thank you, Lily. Labor Day, first Monday in September. Constitution Day. Columbus Day, or Indigenous Peoples Day. Okay. Navy Day, October 27th. Veterans Day, what date is that?
November
11th.
11, right? Thanksgiving Day, the fourth Thursday in November, and Christmas Day.
Oh, God.
Those are the days that they yeah. Now, this is what Patrick Henry, now is Patrick Henry at the Constitutional Convention? No. But this is what he says about this document. The Constitution is not an instrument for the government to restrain the people. It is an instrument for the people to restrain government, lest it come to dominate our lives and interests. Guys, the whole reason for this document is to restrain government. The powers that they have are listed. The powers they don't have are listed. Okay? The powers that states have, the powers that states don't have are also listed in it. Okay? So this is to restrain government so that it doesn't become tyrannical. Okay? That's why that's the law. The law that you and I follow and the law that they follow. It's the supreme law of the land. Okay? What is the supreme law of the land? And as you guys, I think I told you, somebody wrote about it in the essay, this is the oldest living constitution in the world today. Okay? Now, these guys sign it in this room in Independence Hall. Now what has to happen? It's got to be ratified. Okay. Now hold up. I was watching one of my videos because I had to send Heidi videos yesterday because I didn't hit record. I'm like, oh, got to talk about this. So I'm going back before I go forward. Yes, this document has to be ratified. We're going back to the Great Compromise for a minute. Now, I always ask this question, but for some reason I was distracted and didn't ask this question. So, we have a bicameral legislature. We've got House, based on population, elected by the people. We've got a Senate, 2 from each, and the Senate is going to be elected by the state legislature. Is this what we have today? What? That's not what we have today?
No.
What's different today?
The senators are elected by the people.
Oh, so the senators are chosen by the people. Does that make us more democratic? Yeah. Is that always a good idea? Well, let's talk about it. Now, since this was part of the original Constitution, in order to change this, you needed a constitutional amendment to change this.
17.
I watched the video. You went beyond where I told you. Okay.
Good job.
No, I
Good
said-
job, Colin.
Yeah, the first 6 minutes. Second video. Start at 27 to the end. And then the second video, watch the first 6 minutes, which I did the 3/5.
I just looked at
All right, 17th Amendment is direct election of senators, right? Okay, let's talk about this one. What was this one?
Oh,
I
it's
did.
progressive ones.
When did most people start working? When they're 16th, and when you start working, you start paying what?
Taxes.
This is the income tax. Okay, now listen, pay attention. When they wrote this Constitution, they allowed the federal government to tax. Who did they tax? Where did they get money if we didn't have a 16th Amendment till the 20th century? How did they tax?
Property.
Tariffs. The states.
They taxed the states based on their what? Population. So the states would tax the people, and then the federal government would tax the states. Follow me? The 16th Amendment changes that. So these two amendments, guys, really change the relationship between the federal government and the people. We now have a more direct relationship than ever before. Okay? Now, I am going to make the case to you that both of these amendments should be repealed. Now, I am a member of an organization. My wife calls it a cult.
Yeah, right.
No, not that. Called the Convention of the States. Now, guys, every amendment that we have, all 27, were proposed by 2/3 of Congress. But in Article 5 of the Constitution, they allow for two ways to propose a constitutional amendment. Of course, amendments have to be ratified by 3/4 of the states, yes? And all 27 of them have. Otherwise, they wouldn't be amendments. This is exactly like what we just studied. Sending delegates to Philadelphia. I'm at 5%. No, dismiss. You may run out of time. Okay, sorry, Heidi. You send delegates from each state to Philadelphia for the purpose of proposing new amendments. Chief among this group that they want to see is term limits for members of Congress. There's no limit on the number of years a member can serve in the House or the Senate. And some of them have been there for nearly a half a century. Okay? There are many people in this country who would like to see limits placed on the number of terms you can serve. Do you ever see Congress proposing that amendment? Never would they impose term limits on themselves. This is why the founders put the Convention of the States, a national convention of the states, in the Constitution. Just like this, to form ideas or changes. So, chief among them is term limits. Another one is balanced budget amendment. And then they don't like to talk about this because it scares people. Repeal of the 16th and 17th Amendment. That's where I come in. Okay. Now, I went to 13 states, maybe 14 by this point, have agreed to send delegates to its national convention. Kansas is not yet. Okay. So I went to Topeka like 3 years ago when they were having a hearing in the House, State House in Topeka, over sending delegates to a convention of the states. It passed the Kansas State House, but failed in the state Senate by 1 vote. Okay, so this group, they send me emails and stuff like that. They have meetings at Spangles every month. It's a bunch of old people that, care about government, okay, and would like to see term limits. Okay, so I'm part of the cult. All right, now, let me talk about this. Does anybody remember what the national debt is right now?
28 trillion.
Okay, now, so prior to the 16th Amendment, the federal government taxed the states. Right? Now, what body in the federal government determines how much money they're going to tax and how much money they're going to spend? Congress, which includes the Senate, yes? So you have the Senate that was elected by state legislatures, okay? So the state legislatures that represent us in Topeka live in our neighborhood. Yes? Now, you may not know who they are, but they live near you. And if they were the ones that were taxing you the amount that the federal government taxes you now, you might be more aptly to know their name, because they were the ones that chose the senators that chose to raise taxes. Follow me? Now, if a senator that is elected by the state legislature of Kansas goes to Washington, D.C., and votes for legislation that is going to increase the national debt, the state legislature in Kansas can say to that senator, look, you need to stop doing that or you're not going back to Washington. Now, raise your hand right now if you can name me the two senators, don't yell it out, the two senators that represent Kansas and Washington, D.C. right now. Raise your hand. Both of them. This is my point. We elect the senators. We don't even know who they are.
He's got a point.
All right. All right. I want you to go out after school today, and the first adult you run into, ask them who our two senators are that represent us in Washington, D.C. Outside of school.
Tammy will know.
Deal.
And my point will be proven.
Yes.
Do you understand me? Listen, there's no way our states would allow the Senate to do crazy things and run us into crazy debt if they were taxing the states and the states were choosing the senators. Well, you have the House and the Senate have a different number. I think there's around 100 or so state senators and like 200 and some House members. Yes?
Okay, so I saw, maybe it's just like crazy news, but I saw in the news that said that the US is gonna run out of money by like October 18th.
13.
What is
Don't
that?
panic.
Well, I'm not.
He already ran out of money.
You already ran out of money.
When you're in
It's
debt,
really not.
you have a lack of money.
Well, like, what does that mean?
Debt ceiling, D-I-I-E. The debt ceiling is at like 29 trillion. Okay, we're about to go over that. Okay, now, in order to spend more than that ceiling, you have to raise the debt ceiling. If you don't raise the debt ceiling, then the government shuts down of all non-essentials. Okay, so if you go to the national park and the government shut down, you may not have park rangers there to open the gate. This has happened at least 6 times in my lifetime.
Yeah, this happened really bad like a couple years ago.
It wasn't really bad.
And every time they just.
It wasn't bad. Because you know what? You got up and you went to work today, you went to school, and nothing happened.
Right. But I just remember.
Yeah, that's great. You know what? Because it realizes we can survive without it. You understand? I mean, like, non-essentials is non-essential. Now, listen, those people that are told not to come to work, you're like, oh man, that sucks. They're not going to get paid. Oh no, they're going to get paid. It's a paid vacation. Don't show up for work. Now, if you do go to the national park or a national monument or something like that, it's shut down. You don't get to go see it. Because the first time it was in the 90s, and you had Bill Clinton was president, Democrat, wanted to spend money. Republicans controlled both houses of Congress, and Newt Gingrich, who was the speaker, said, no, we're not spending any more money. And so the government shut down. And I was in Georgia going back to visit my old college for an alumni baseball game, and right 10 miles from my college is a place called Andersonville, Georgia.
Oh.
Andersonville prison of the Civil War.
Civil War.
Remember that? Yeah, it's horrible. Horrible, right? So I'm like, hey, let's go by Andersonville. There was a sign on the gate said we are closed to the thing. Now, I wanted to go see Andersonville, but at the same time, I was like, no, I agree. Listen, we need to quit spending money. And you know what happened in 1995 and 1996?
That went down.
They actually not only balanced the budget, but there was a surplus. Yeah, listen, the government took in more money than it spent for 2 years in a row.
That's shocking.
It's unbelievable.
So did every time they just raise the ceiling?
Oh yeah, they just keep doing it. So you got these two infrastructure bills, right? You got the 1.2 trillion infrastructure bill and a 3.5 trillion human infrastructure bill. Okay?
Are we gonna get bionic parts?
Well, you're not going to get anything. Okay? Now, you got any trade academy people? Roletter was talking about the tree thing, the tree equity.
What? Can you own half a
Remember
tree?
hearing about
Thomas
trade?
was talking
Yeah, he said he was talking about it.
half a tree.
What?
What is it?
Yeah, hey, Ruby.
What Thomas mom was talking about?
Yeah.
The tree thing?
Tree equity,
Can't
that
count
it's
trees.
not fair that people who live in the
Oh,
cities
yeah,
don't have trees.
Yes.
So like $30 billion in the 3.5 billion one go to planting trees in the inner cities. Okay, now look, if New York City wants more trees, here's my thing. If New York City wants more trees, that's fine.
Stop
Let
there.
them plant the freaking trees. Why do we have to pay for it in Kansas where we don't have any trees either?
Why don't people just stop tearing out the trees? Weird concept.
Because it's more expensive.
Zoning law.
It's more expensive.
Stop letting them out.
Okay. So, moral of the story. So you guys remember, do any of you guys thinking about Wichita State? They have a thing called the Distinguished Scholarship Program at Wichita State. Okay.
My parents were gonna make me.
You should. Okay. It's a competition. Now, about 5 years ago, serious, it's a true story. Okay. 5 years ago, I just had given this lecture about the 17th Amendment. Okay. And I had like 5 students go to the Distinguished Scholarship Competition at Wichita State. Okay. And that year, and I don't know if they still do it this way, they put everybody at a round table with different kids. And the question was about the 17th Amendment. And I had just given this lecture. I had people showing up in school on Monday saying, Mr. Earbright, you won't believe what happened. The question was about 17th Amendment. We knew all about it. And I got a $10,000 scholarship. In other words, I got a $10,000 scholarship because I knew about this. It was cool. That's the moral of the story.
Wait, you just get, wait, you just get,
Funny.
it's like an open debate.
Yeah, kind of like discussion. Now, I don't know if that's how they still do it. Certainly probably not during COVID.
Got an essay.
I can't
He's very upset about it.
You have to write an essay for it?
I'm pretty sure.
Well, I think that's part of
Parents
the,
gonna make me write.
oh yeah, you did have to, I had to write 2 essays to apply.
Okay.
You gotta write more.
Well, you can win some good money there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can see.
Yeah.
We do one more scholarship after I have to write an essay.
Well, maybe it'll be about the 17th.
I hope so, because then I actually know something.
Oh, we already on section 5.
This is not government. This is regular government.
Oh, that's right.
Just pay attention to this right here.
All over.
Now we got to ratify this thing, right? We need 3/4 of the states. In that case, we have 13. How many do we need? 9 to ratify this new constitution, but you really want all of them, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Who are the holdouts going to be?
Virginia.
Virginia again, and New York are gonna be two of the big holdouts, and they're two of the biggest states, so you really need those states to come in, right? So, what we're gonna see is breaking into two camps. Those that supported the new Constitution, the Federalists, and those that were opposed to the new Constitution, the Anti-Federalists. Because we all know what federalism is, right? The sharing or division of between national, state, local governments. Right, Oscar? Okay. So you got federalists and anti-federalists, because we had a confederal system, remember? Now we're creating a federal system, not a unitary system, which is the third.
Yep.
All right, what else do I got here? United States to ratify, you don't need to write that down, you know what it means, okay? All right. So, let's talk about some of the complaints that the okay, so this is page 43, okay? It's just there for reference, okay? Here's a couple of the big ones. And the loudest against this new Constitution, most famous and loudest, Patrick Henry, okay? And it's really better to look at the Anti-Federalist arguments than the Federalists. We'll look at both. But the Anti-Federalists bring up some really good points, okay? And things we can think about and talk about, okay? The national government would become too powerful. Okay, 2021, here we are. I know you guys are young, 17, 18. What do you think? Patrick Henry right? Okay, now, I don't think we live under tyranny at this point or anything, okay? But some would say, yeah, the federal government is too big, it's too powerful, it does too much, okay? Actually, a lot of people would say that. But we're still free human beings, okay? We can still pursue our happiness, okay? He said that popular government can only exist in small territories. And I think his point here is, we're using democratic values here. And once we spread out, and I think most of the founders realized that there was enough will out there for people to expand beyond their present borders, that was likely to happen. That in order to hold it together, the government would have to hold it together by force. And now we certainly have expanded. Okay? We have two states that are not even connected to the contiguous United States. Are those states, Alaska and Hawaii, and us out here on the prairie, held together by force? Not really. Okay? So maybe a little bit off here, but certainly this was a concern. Okay? Patrick Henry and the Anti-Federalists also felt like a strong executive would become like a king, like a monarch. I want you to think back about what you know about history. You know a lot of the presidents. Did any of them become like a king? And we had one that was elected 4 times. And as Oscar and Ruby can attest to, did become very powerful. But was he a dictator? No. Okay. The whole 3 branches things and checks and balances and separation of powers actually have worked quite well here. Now, our presidents do have more power than they've had ever, okay? But they're still not kings, okay? This would be a danger to individual rights and representative government itself, in the view of Patrick Henry and the Anti-Federalists. This is the big one, right? in any type of question on this, you would certainly want to mention the fact that there was no Bill of Rights in this new Constitution. Because remember, we studied the influences on our government, and we started with the roots of our rights. Yeah, all three of those British constitutions or English